Rich people do not win because they have more money or better opportunities, but because they have rewired their brains to see possibilities where everyone else sees obstacles. And once you understand the exact mental operating system they run, you will realize that wealth is not about luck or talent, but about adopting a specific mindset that makes success inevitable. What I am about to share with you is based on decades of research studying the thought patterns of self-made millionaires and billionaires. This is not motivational fluff. This is the actual psychology behind why some people accumulate wealth effortlessly, while others work just as hard but stay broke. Only a small percentage of people will actually apply what they learn here, and those are the ones whose financial reality will completely transform. If you are ready to stop being a spectator in the game of wealth and start being a player, then pay close attention, because what you are about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about money and success. Before we dive deep, hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel is dedicated to giving you the mental frameworks that separate the wealthy from the rest. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss strategies that could literally change your financial future starting today. Let me tell you a story that will blow your mind. There were two men who grew up in the same neighborhood, went to the same schools, and had access to the same opportunities. One of them is now worth $50 million. The other is still living paycheck to paycheck, complaining about how the system is rigged. What made the difference? It was not intelligence. It was not work ethic. It was not even connections. The difference was how they thought about money, about risk, about failure, and about themselves. The wealthy man saw every obstacle as a puzzle to solve. The struggling man saw every obstacle as proof that success was not meant for him. One played offense, the other played defense. And that single difference in mindset created two completely different lives. Here is what most people do not understand. Rich people do not think about money the way poor people think about money. And I am not talking about positive thinking or manifestation nonsense. I am talking about a fundamental difference in how their brains process information, make decisions, and respond to circumstances. When a poor person loses money, they see it as a catastrophe. When a rich person loses money, they see it as tuition. When a poor person sees an opportunity, they immediately think of all the reasons it will not work. When a rich person sees an opportunity, they immediately think about how to make it work. This is not about optimism versus pessimism. This is about a completely different mental operating system. Let me explain this in a way that will make it crystal clear. Your brain has something called a Reticular Activating System, or RAS. It is a filter that determines what information gets into your conscious awareness. There is too much data in the world for you to process everything, so your RAS filters it based on what you have told it is important. If you tell your RAS that you are broke and opportunities are scarce, then guess what? You will only notice information that confirms that belief. You will see bills, you will see expenses, you will see reasons why you cannot afford things. But if you program your RAS to look for opportunities to create wealth, then suddenly you start noticing things you never saw before. You see potential business ideas. You see undervalued assets. You see gaps in the market. The opportunities were always there, but your filter was not set to see them. Rich people have trained their RAS to filter for abundance. Poor people have trained their RAS to filter for scarcity. And this creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. What you focus on expands. If you focus on lack, you create more lack. If you focus on opportunity, you create more opportunity. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. And once you understand this, you realize that wealth creation starts in your mind long before it shows up in your bank account. Now let me tell you about the concept of delayed gratification. There was a famous study done at Stanford University called the marshmallow experiment. Researchers put a marshmallow in front of young children and told them they could eat it now, or if they waited 15 minutes, they could have 2 marshmallows. Some kids ate it immediately. Others waited. Then, researchers followed these kids for decades. And here is what they found. The kids who delayed gratification went on to have higher SAT scores, better jobs, more savings, and overall more successful lives. The kids who grabbed the marshmallow immediately struggled more financially and professionally. Why? Because the ability to delay gratification is one of the most powerful predictors of success. And rich people are masters at this. Poor people prioritize immediate pleasure. Rich people prioritize long-term gain. Poor people see $1,000 and think about what they can buy right now. Rich people see $1,000 and think about how they can turn it into $10,000. Poor people spend money to feel good today. Rich people invest money to feel wealthy tomorrow. This is not about being cheap. This is about understanding that every dollar is a seed. You can eat the seed today, or you can plant it and harvest a tree tomorrow. Rich people plant seeds. Poor people eat them. But here is where it gets even more interesting. Rich people have a completely different relationship with risk. Most people think rich people are reckless risk takers. That is completely wrong. Rich people are calculated risk takers. They understand something that poor people do not. The biggest risk is not taking risks. Playing it safe feels comfortable, but it guarantees mediocrity. Rich people understand that you cannot win big by playing small. They are willing to bet on themselves. They are willing to fail. They are willing to look foolish. Because they know that on the other side of fear is freedom. Let me give you an example. Imagine you have an opportunity to start a business, but it requires you to invest $10,000 that you do not really have. A poor person immediately says, "I cannot afford that. What if it fails? I will lose everything." A rich person says, "How can I afford that? What if it succeeds? I could change my life." Do you see the difference? The poor person focuses on the downside. The rich person focuses on the upside. The poor person asks closed-ended questions that shut down possibilities. The rich person asks open-ended questions that create possibilities. And this difference in the quality of questions determines the quality of your life. Rich people also understand the concept of leverage. They know they cannot do everything themselves. They know their time is limited, so they leverage other people's time, other people's money, and other people's expertise. Poor people try to do everything themselves because they think it saves money. But what they do not realize is they are trading dollars for hours. And there are only so many hours in a day. Rich people think in terms of multiplication. How can I create a system that works without me? How can I get paid while I sleep? How can I scale this? Poor people think in terms of addition. If I work more hours, I make more money. But there is a ceiling to that model. You cannot work more than 24 hours in a day. Rich people break through that ceiling by leveraging systems and people. Now let me talk about something that might make you uncomfortable. Rich people are okay with being disliked. They are okay with people judging them. They are okay with people calling them greedy or selfish. Why? Because they understand that you cannot please everyone, and trying to do so is a guarantee of mediocrity. Poor people are obsessed with what others think. They do not start that business because they are afraid of what their family will say. They do not ask for that raise because they do not want to seem greedy. They do not invest in themselves because they do not want people to think they are showing off. They live their entire lives in a prison built by other people's opinions. Rich people break free from that prison. They understand that the only opinion that matters is their own. And this freedom allows them to make decisions based on what is best for them, not what will make others comfortable. Let me share another critical insight. Rich people have an abundance mindset. Poor people have a scarcity mindset. What does this mean? A scarcity mindset says there is not enough to go around. If someone else wins, I lose. If someone else gets rich, there is less for me. This mindset creates competition, jealousy, and hoarding. An abundance mindset says there is more than enough for everyone. If someone else wins, it proves that winning is possible. If someone else gets rich, it shows me the path. This mindset creates collaboration, generosity, and flow. And here is the paradox. The more you give, the more you receive. Rich people understand this. They are generous with their knowledge, their time, and their money. Not because they are saints, but because they understand that wealth flows to those who circulate it. I want to tell you about a billionaire I studied who said something profound. He said, "I do not chase money. I chase value. And money chases value." Think about that. Poor people chase money. They think about how much they can get. Rich people chase value. They think about how much they can give. And the universe rewards value creation. If you solve a problem for 10 people, you make a little money. If you solve a problem for 10 million people, you make a lot of money. Rich people are obsessed with creating value. Poor people are obsessed with getting paid. And that is why one group wins and the other struggles. Let me explain another mental shift that changes everything. Rich people see failure as feedback. Poor people see failure as identity. When a poor person fails, they say, "I am a failure." When a rich person fails, they say, "That did not work. What can I learn?" Do you see the difference? One is identity. The other is event. If failure is your identity, you will avoid it at all costs. If failure is just an event, you will embrace it as part of the process. Rich people fail more than poor people, but they fail forward. Every failure teaches them something. Every setback contains a lesson, and those lessons compound into wisdom. Poor people fail once and quit. Rich people fail 100 times and keep going. And that persistence is what separates those who make it from those who do not. Now, I want to blow your mind with something. Rich people do not work for money. They make money work for them. Let me explain. Poor people trade time for money. They get a job. They work 40 hours. They get a paycheck. If they stop working, the money stops. Rich people build assets. They create businesses. They invest in real estate. They buy stocks. And those assets generate income whether they work or not. This is called passive income. And it is the holy grail of wealth. Rich people understand that true wealth is not about how much you earn. It is about how much you keep and how hard that money works for you. You can earn $1 million a year and still be broke if you spend it all. Or you can earn $50,000 a year and become wealthy if you invest wisely. Here is another truth that will set you free. Rich people are lifelong learners. They read, they study, they attend seminars, they hire coaches, they invest in their education. Poor people think learning stops when they leave school. They think they already know everything they need to know. But the world is changing rapidly. What worked 10 years ago does not work today. What works today might not work tomorrow. Rich people understand that the best investment you can make is in yourself. Every book you read, every course you take, every skill you develop increases your value in the marketplace. And the more value you have, the more you can charge. The more you can charge, the more you can earn. The more you can earn, the more you can invest. And the more you invest, the wealthier you become. It is a virtuous cycle that starts with the decision to never stop learning. Let me tell you about the power of association. There is a saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you hang out with 5 broke people, you will be the 6th. If you hang out with 5 millionaires, you will be the 6th. Rich people are very intentional about who they surround themselves with. They seek out people who are smarter, more successful, and more ambitious than they are. Why? Because those people challenge them. They raise their standards. They expand their thinking. Poor people hang out with people who make them feel comfortable, people who do not challenge them, people who validate their excuses, and this keeps them stuck. If you want to be rich, you need to be around rich people, not to kiss up to them, but to absorb their mindset, to see how they think, to learn how they operate. Proximity is power, and rich people leverage proximity. Now let me talk about something uncomfortable, but necessary. Rich people are comfortable with discomfort. They understand that growth happens outside the comfort zone. Poor people avoid discomfort at all costs. They stay in jobs they hate because it is comfortable. They stay in relationships that do not serve them because it is familiar. They live in the same place, do the same things, and wonder why their life never changes. Rich people embrace discomfort. They take risks. They have hard conversations. They fire people. They pivot. They do things that scare them, because they know that on the other side of discomfort is the life they want. Comfort is the enemy of progress, and rich people choose progress over comfort every single time. Here is a mindset shift that changed my life, and it will change yours too. Rich people focus on solutions. Poor people focus on problems. When something goes wrong, a poor person complains. They blame the economy. They blame the government. They blame their boss. They blame their parents. They are victims. Rich people ask, how can I fix this? What is within my control? What action can I take? They are creators. Victims stay stuck. Creators move forward. And here is the thing. Life will always throw problems at you. That is guaranteed. What is not guaranteed is how you respond. You can be a victim or you can be a creator. You can complain or you can solve. And that choice determines everything. Let me tell you about the concept of value perception. Rich people understand that price is what you pay and value is what you get. They are not cheap. They are strategic. They will spend $100,000 on a course if it will teach them something worth $1 million. They will hire a $50,000 consultant if it saves them $200,000. Poor people look at price. Rich people look at ROI. Poor people say, I cannot afford that. Rich people say, how will this pay for itself? This is not about having money. This is about understanding that every expenditure is an investment. And the question is not, can I afford this? The question is, what return will I get? Now let me share something about time. Rich people value time more than money. Why? Because you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. Time is the ultimate finite resource. Rich people are ruthless with their time. They say no to things that do not serve them. They delegate. They automate. They eliminate. Poor people waste time on things that do not matter. They scroll social media for hours. They watch TV. They hang out with people who drain them. And then they wonder why they have no time to build wealth. Rich people understand that how you spend your time determines your wealth. If you spend your time consuming, you will stay broke. If you spend your time creating, you will become rich. It is that simple. Let me tell you about another powerful principle. Rich people think in decades. Poor people think in days. When a poor person gets money, they think, what can I buy today? When a rich person gets money, they think, how can I invest this so it grows over the next 10, 20, 30 years? Rich people play the long game. They plant trees they will never sit under. They build businesses they might sell later. They invest in assets that appreciate. Poor people play the short game. They want instant results, instant gratification. And instant gratification is the enemy of wealth. Wealth is built slowly over time through consistent action and compound growth. And rich people have the patience to let that process unfold. Here is something that might surprise you. Rich people are not motivated by money. They are motivated by freedom. Money is just a tool. The real goal is freedom. Freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want. Freedom to not worry about bills. Freedom to say no to things you do not like. Freedom to live life on your terms. Poor people chase money because they think money will make them happy. Rich people chase freedom and use money to buy it. And this difference in motivation changes everything. When you are motivated by freedom, you make different choices. You are willing to sacrifice short-term comfort for long-term liberation. And that willingness is what creates wealth. Now let me talk about confidence. Rich people have unshakable confidence in themselves, not arrogance, confidence. They believe that no matter what happens, they will figure it out. They believe they can learn any skill, solve any problem, overcome any obstacle. This confidence is not innate. It is built through experience. Every time you face a challenge and overcome it, you build confidence. Every time you set a goal and achieve it, you build confidence. Every time you fail and get back up, you build confidence. Rich people have faced more challenges than most people will ever face, and those challenges forged their confidence. Poor people avoid challenges. They stay in their lane. They play it safe. And because they never test themselves, they never build confidence. And without confidence, you will never take the risks necessary to create wealth. Let me share a story about a man named Sam Walton. He started Walmart when he was 44 years old. He built it into the largest retailer in the world. And when he died, he was one of the richest men in America. But here is what most people do not know. Before Walmart, he failed multiple times. He had businesses that went under. He made mistakes. He lost money. But he never gave up. He learned. He adapted. He persisted. And his persistence paid off. This is the pattern you see with every wealthy person. They fail more than most people try, but they keep going. And that relentless persistence is what creates extraordinary wealth. Now let me explain something about leverage. Rich people use other people's money to make money. They understand debt is not bad. Bad debt is bad. Good debt is a tool. If you borrow money to buy a car that depreciates, that is bad debt. If you borrow money to buy a rental property that generates income, that is good debt. Rich people use leverage to multiply their returns. They put down 20% and the bank puts down 80%. But they get 100% of the appreciation. Poor people are terrified of debt. They think all debt is bad. And because they avoid debt, they miss opportunities. Rich people embrace strategic debt. And that willingness to leverage is a massive advantage. Here is another critical mindset difference. Rich people think win-win. Poor people think win-lose. A scarcity mindset says, if you win, I lose. An abundance mindset says we can both win. Rich people create deals where everyone benefits. They negotiate in ways that leave both parties happy. Poor people negotiate in ways that leave the other person feeling screwed. And guess what? Those people do not want to do business with them again. Rich people build long-term relationships. Poor people extract short-term value. And over time, the compounding effect of relationships creates massive wealth. Your network is your net worth. And if you treat people like transactions, your network will be worthless. Let me tell you about the power of focus. Rich people focus on one thing until it works. Poor people try a little bit of everything and master nothing. They start a business and quit after 3 months. They invest in stocks and panic sell. They learn a skill and move on before getting good. Rich people pick a lane and go deep. They become experts. They dominate a niche. And that focus creates mastery. And mastery creates wealth. The riches are in the niches. And rich people understand this. They do not try to be everything to everyone. They try to be the best at one thing for a specific group of people. And that focus allows them to charge premium prices and attract premium clients. Now let me tell you something that will shift your entire perspective. Rich people see money as energy. It flows. Poor people see money as scarce. They hoard it. They grip it tightly. And when you grip something tightly, it cannot flow. Rich people let money flow. They spend. They invest. They give. And because they let it flow, more flows back. This is not woo-woo. This is psychology. When you operate from scarcity, you make fear-based decisions. You do not invest in opportunities. You do not hire help. You do not take risks. And this keeps you stuck. But when you operate from abundance, you make opportunity-based decisions. You invest, you leverage, you grow, and growth creates more wealth. The irony is that the more willing you are to let go of money, the more money comes to you. Because you are signaling to yourself and to the universe that you trust there is always more. Let me tell you about the importance of integrity. Rich people keep their word. If they say they will do something, they do it. Poor people make excuses. They overpromise and underdeliver. And this destroys their reputation. Your reputation is your most valuable asset. It takes years to build and seconds to destroy. Rich people understand this. They are obsessive about keeping commitments. They do not lie. They do not cheat. They do not cut corners. Why? Because they know that trust is the currency of business. And if people do not trust you, they will not do business with you. Poor people think they can get away with shady behavior. And maybe they can in the short term, but long term, it catches up with them. Rich people play the long game. And in the long game, integrity always wins. Here is something that will challenge you. Rich people are okay with being uncomfortable. They have hard conversations. They fire people who are not performing. They raise their prices even when it feels scary. They walk away from bad deals even when they have invested time. Poor people avoid discomfort. They tolerate mediocrity because confrontation is uncomfortable. They undercharge because asking for more feels awkward. They stay in bad situations because leaving is hard, and this avoidance keeps them stuck. Rich people understand that temporary discomfort leads to permanent improvement. Poor people choose temporary comfort and permanent struggle. Which do you choose? Now let me share a profound insight. Rich people measure progress. Poor people hope for progress. Rich people track their numbers. They know exactly how much they make, how much they spend, how much they invest. They have dashboards. They have spreadsheets. They review their metrics regularly. And what gets measured gets managed. Poor people have no idea where their money goes. They do not track. They do not measure. They just hope things work out. And hope is not a strategy. If you want to be wealthy, you need to know your numbers. You need to track your income, your expenses, your net worth, your investments. Because when you measure, you can improve. And continuous improvement is the path to wealth. Let me tell you about the power of action. Rich people are biased toward action. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They do not wait until they feel ready. They move. They test. They iterate. Poor people wait. They wait for the right time. They wait for more information. They wait until they feel confident. And while they wait, life passes them by. Rich people understand that action creates clarity. You do not think your way into action. You act your way into clarity. You start, and then you figure it out. You launch, and then you improve. You invest, and then you learn. Poor people think and think and think and never do. And thinking without action is just daydreaming. Rich people dream, and then they build. Now, let me talk about resilience. Rich people bounce back. Poor people stay down. Life knocks everyone down. The economy crashes. Businesses fail. Investments go bad. Relationships end. This is part of life. The difference is rich people get back up. They dust themselves off. They learn. They adapt. They try again. Poor people get knocked down and stay down. They blame. They complain. They give up. And this lack of resilience guarantees failure. Because success is not about never falling. Success is about how quickly you get back up. Rich people have an incredible ability to recover from setbacks. And this resilience is built through practice. Every time you get back up, you get stronger. Every time you persist, you build mental toughness. And that toughness is what carries you through the inevitable challenges on the path to wealth. Here is a truth that will liberate you. Rich people do not need approval. They do not need permission. They do not need validation. They decide what they want, and they go after it. Period. Poor people need everyone to agree. They need their family to support them. They need their friends to believe in them. They need society to approve. And because they need external validation, they give away their power. Rich people validate themselves. They trust their vision even when no one else does. And this self-trust is magnetic. When you believe in yourself, others start to believe in you too. But it has to start with you. You cannot wait for the world to give you permission to be wealthy. You have to give yourself permission. Let me tell you about the concept of identity. Rich people see themselves as wealthy even before they are wealthy. Poor people see themselves as broke even when they have money. Your identity determines your behavior. If you see yourself as someone who is bad with money, you will make bad financial decisions. If you see yourself as someone who is good with money, you will make good financial decisions. Rich people have rich identities. They see themselves as investors, as entrepreneurs, as wealth creators. And because that is their identity, they behave accordingly. They read books about money. They hang out with wealthy people. They invest. They build. They create. Your identity is a choice. You can choose to see yourself as a victim or as a victor. And that choice will shape your entire financial future. Now let me share something about generosity. Rich people give. They donate to charity. They tip well. They pay their employees generously. Why? Because they understand that money is energy and energy flows. The more you give, the more you receive. This is not karma. This is psychology. When you give, you signal to your subconscious that you have more than enough. And that signal creates an abundance mindset. Poor people hoard. They grip every penny. They tip poorly. They underpay. And this signals scarcity. And scarcity creates more scarcity. If you want to be wealthy, start giving. Even if you do not have much, give your time, give your knowledge, give your attention. Because giving rewires your brain for abundance, and abundance attracts wealth. Let me tell you about the importance of standards. Rich people have high standards. They do not tolerate mediocrity. They expect excellence from themselves and from others. Poor people have low standards. They tolerate bad behavior. They accept poor quality. They settle. And this shows up in every area of their life. Their relationships, their health, their finances. If you tolerate mediocrity, you will get mediocrity. But if you demand excellence, you will get excellence. Rich people do not settle. They fire clients who are difficult. They walk away from opportunities that are not aligned. They say no to anything that is not a hell yes. And this selectivity creates a life of quality. Poor people say yes to everything, and they end up with a life of clutter. Rich people curate. Poor people accumulate. And that difference is huge. Here is a final thought that ties everything together. Rich people understand that wealth is a choice. It is not about where you were born or who your parents are or what degree you have. It is about the choices you make every single day. Do you choose to learn or to stay ignorant? Do you choose to invest or to spend? Do you choose to take risks or to play it safe? Do you choose to persist or to quit? Every day, you make hundreds of choices. And those choices compound. Rich people make wealthy choices. Poor people make broke choices. And over time, those choices create completely different lives. The good news is that starting today, you can start making different choices. You can choose to adopt the mindset of the wealthy. You can choose to see opportunities instead of obstacles. You can choose to take action instead of waiting. You can choose to believe in yourself instead of doubting. And when you make those choices consistently, your financial reality will change. Not overnight, but it will change. Everything I have shared with you today is not theory. It is the distilled wisdom of studying wealthy people for years. The mindset differences I have outlined are the exact differences that separate those who accumulate wealth from those who struggle. And here is the most important thing I want you to understand. You can adopt this mindset starting right now. You do not need permission. You do not need more money. You do not need better circumstances. You just need to decide that you are done thinking like a broke person, and you are ready to think like a wealthy person. And that decision will set off a chain reaction that will transform your life. Subscribe to this channel right now because I am committed to giving you the tools, the strategies, and the mindset shifts that will accelerate your journey to wealth. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and then go take action on what you just learned. Choose one mindset shift from this video and implement it today. Maybe it is tracking your finances. Maybe it is reading a book about investing. Maybe it is having a hard conversation you have been avoiding. Whatever it is, take action. Because information without action is useless. But information plus action is transformation. 30 days from now, you will look back at this moment as the turning point. The moment you stopped being a victim of your circumstances and started being the creator of your wealth. Subscribe now, and let's build the wealth you deserve together.